Good evening and welcome to it, everybody. The Chris Salcedo Show here on Newsmax TV. You know, the same people who are pushing a narrative about this big lie on the election are the same people who claim that the China virus origins being from a Wuhan lab was all a Donald Trump conspiracy theory. Well, tonight, those so-called news agencies are backpedaling to save what little credibility they have left. If Biden, Fauci, and the biased press don't stop digging, they may hit China. Some truth bombs in tonight's preamble. In a brazen attempt to rewrite history, Joe Biden declared that the intel community is torn between two likely scenarios on COVID-19's outbreak source. One faction leans toward the lab accident theory, while the other favors animal-to-human contact theory. Biden claims he has asked the intelligence community to redouble their efforts to collect and analyze information that could bring the U.S. closer to a definitive conclusion on the origins of the China virus. Now, this directly contradicts his spokesperson, Jen Psaki, who just 2 days ago said the United States would not be investigating, instead leaving it up to the corrupt Chinese puppet, the World Health Organization.
And we have repeatedly called for the WHO to support an expert-driven evaluation of the pandemic's origins that is free from interference or politicization. Now, there were phase 1 results that came through. We were not, during that first phase of the investigation, there was not access to data, there was not information provided. And now we're hopeful that WHO can move into a more transparent, independent phase 2 investigation.
Well, how else do we know that Biden is lying about his so-called desire to know the truth about the China virus? Well, it's because of breaking news, a story that came out just today. It turns out one of Biden's first acts upon entering the Oval Office was to kill an investigation started by President Trump and Mike Pompeo to discover China's role in the intentional spreading of the pandemic. According to Forbes and other sources, the Biden administration shut down a clandestine State Department operation intended to prove the lab-based origins of the China virus. According to the Forbes article, Team Biden worried that Communist China would be implicated for their role in the spreading of the China virus pandemic, a pandemic that has claimed nearly 600,000 American lives. So after initially working to protect China, Biden now is saying he wants to get to the bottom of China's involvement now that the House of Cards is collapsing. Adding insult to injury, the walls appear to be closing in on Dr. Fauci and the Wuhan Institute of Virology. After declaring under oath that the United States taxpayers did not fund gain-of-function research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, His Eminence, Dr. Fauci, is starting to sing a different tune by saying it would be, quote, almost a dereliction of our duty, end quote, if the National Institutes of Health had not worked with China to study coronaviruses. Fauci is now defending money going from the National Institutes of Health to fund what he calls collaboration with very respectable Chinese scientists. First off, Fauci may have claim to some knowledge of medicine, but given his track record during the pandemic, that's up for debate too. But secondly, Fauci is a 100% moron when it comes to geopolitical considerations. The fact that he would deem any communist respectable shows his naivete and how dangerous it is to trust such a mental midget with any American tax dollars. As it turns out, Fauci was wrong to trust these so-called respectable communist scientists. As leaked documents from 2015 reveal, these very same respectable Chinese scientists were discussing developing the SARS virus as a bioweapon in a World War III scenario. When Dr. Fauci last appeared before Senator Rand Paul, he tried to give the American people the impression that no American taxpayer money was going to the Wuhan Institute of Virology. But now we are learning that indeed U.S. taxpayers' money was used to fund the Wuhan Institute of Virology, a fact that Representative Andy Harris, Republican from Maryland, got the director for the National Institutes of Health to admit under oath. Listen.
But my understanding is we did send about $3.7 million in grants to EcoHealth Alliance, of which $600,000 went to the Wuhan Institute of Virology, to various studies there. Is that true?
That is correct. I'm going to ask Dr. Fauci also.
So, no, I only have 5 minutes. I just need, that's true. Okay, because I read it, that's true. Because I do know that money is somewhat fungible once you send money to institutes, that it bothers me a little bit that we would send money to an institute that might be doing gain-of-function research, especially China.
Yeah, it bothers me a lot. But wait, Fauci claimed under oath to Rand Paul that the U.S. didn't fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan lab. Did Fauci commit perjury? Fauci and other left-wingers have proven to America a couple of things. First, they prove that our government is too big and spends too much of our money. 535 elected officials and various presidents couldn't keep track of money that was flowing out of the United States and funding our enemies in China, Russia, and other bad actors. The funding has, is, and will be used to harm the United States. Automatic spending increases and trusting left-wing bureaucrats like Fauci with our taxpayer money is dangerous and a definition of irresponsible. But this is normal operating procedure in Washington, D.C. We've also learned this. Since the outbreak of the pandemic, socialist Democrats have been running interference for communist China. They have been aided by a lazy or complicit press. The question is why? I think it's because socialist Democrats in and out of the press have a lot in common ideologically with Xi Jinping and his merry band of communists. I also think the Democrats have deep financial ties to China. We know that the Biden family does. And now we know that Biden, from the moment he got into the Oval Office, has been working for China to make sure the American people never find out how the pandemic was potentially a biological attack launched by communist China. I think it's fair for Americans, patriotic Americans, to ask Biden, his party, and the biased press this. Just whose side are you on?
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.